Jack Morrison stood with perfect posture before the Galactic Council. He kept his face calm as the Xeraxian representative finished his speech. And so we must question whether a species that has barely mastered basic space travel truly deserves a seat at this council, Ambassador Kroll said, his four eyes blinking in a pattern that showed disdain in Xeraxian culture. Humans have been interstellar for less than 2 centuries. Most of us had colonized multiple systems by that point in our development. Jack smiled politely. This was nothing new. For 5 years, he had endured these thinly veiled insults in the Grand Council chamber. The room itself was designed to impress and intimidate, with its soaring ceilings of iridescent alien metal and seats arranged in ascending rings that forced representatives of newer species to look up at the founding members. "Thank you for your concerns, Ambassador Kroll," Jack said. His voice was smooth and measured. "Humanity values the wisdom of older spacefaring species. We have much to learn, which is precisely why our presence here is so valuable, both to us and, we hope, eventually to the Council as a whole." Several Council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They always did when Jack responded to insults with courtesy. The Palaxian delegate whispered something to her neighbor, a massive tentacled Juvarian. The Juvarian's skin flushed a deeper blue, their equivalent of an embarrassed blush. "Ambassador Morrison continues to demonstrate the human gift for empty pleasantries," remarked Kroll, the draconian representative. His scaled face couldn't quite manage a smirk, but his tone conveyed it perfectly. Perhaps if humans spent less time on diplomatic niceties and more on technological advancement, they wouldn't lag centuries behind the rest of us. Jack nodded thoughtfully, as though Vroll had offered genuine advice rather than another barb. "An interesting perspective, Ambassador. We find our diplomatic approach serves us well, but we're always open to suggestions for improvement." Across the chamber, Ambassador Ilara of the Solari, one of the few council members who treated humans with respect, gave Jack a subtle nod of approval. A small light pulsed on Jack's wrist device, a message from Earth Command. He'd check it after the session. For now, he needed to focus on the trade agreement being discussed. It wasn't a good deal for Earth, but it was better than no deal at all. That was how it had been for 5 years, accepting scraps from the council table while building human presence in the galactic community. "If I may address the proposed tariff structure," Jack began, pulling up details on his datapad. 2 hours later, the session adjourned. Jack maintained his pleasant expression as he gathered his materials. His aide, Lisa Harper, approached with a cup of coffee, real coffee, imported from Earth at great expense. It was one of Jack's few indulgences in his Spartan life on the council station. "You have the patience of a saint," Lisa murmured as she handed him the cup. At 28, she was 15 years his junior, and still showed flashes of indignation that Jack had learned to suppress. "Not patience," Jack corrected her quietly. "Strategy." He took a sip of coffee and allowed himself a moment of simple pleasure before the diplomatic mask slid back into place. As they walked through the grand corridor outside the chamber, the Vordax ambassador deliberately bumped into Jack, spilling coffee on his immaculate gray suit. "My apologies, human," the Vordax said, not sounding sorry at all. "I didn't see you there. Your species is so unremarkable." Jack dabbed at the stain with a handkerchief. "No harm done, Ambassador. These things happen." As the Vordax walked away with a satisfied air, Lisa whispered, "One day, I hope someone teaches them not to underestimate us." Jack watched the Vordax's retreating form with eyes that, for just a moment, lost their diplomatic blandness and showed something harder, something calculating. "One day," he agreed softly, "but not today." He checked the message on his wrist device, and his expression didn't change, though something in his eyes did. He closed the message and continued down the corridor, every bit the polite, deferential human ambassador that the council had come to dismiss. Samantha Reeves stared at the monitor in her office on Novaterra. The colony hummed with activity outside her window. Miners, scientists, and settlers worked to build humanity's newest home among the stars. But the images on her screen told a different story. "Play it again," she told the computer. "Enhance Section 4. The footage showed a sleek, silver ship hovering near the northern mining zone. It wasn't human-made. Its hull gleamed with the distinctive metallic patterns of Vordak's design. A beam of light extended from the ship to the ground, pulling up containers of raw minerals. Samantha leaned forward. The timestamp showed this happened 3 days ago, during Novaterra's night cycle. The Vordak ship wasn't supposed to be there. This area was strictly human territory under Council law. "Computer, show me last week's mineral reports from Sector North 7. Numbers appeared beside the video. Production was down 15%. Strange equipment failures had been reported. And now she knew why. The door to her office slid open. Then Allen, her head of security, walked in with a grim look on his face. "You need to see this," he said, placing a small device on her desk. It projected a new video, this one from just 6 hours ago. The same Vordak ship, but this time it was doing more than stealing. Small drones were attaching devices to human mining equipment. "Sabotage," Samantha said. Ben nodded. "They've been hitting all our best mining spots, taking what they want, damaging our equipment to slow us down." Samantha's face hardened. She had worked 3 years to make this colony successful. Novaterra was rich with minerals the Earth needed, especially the rare elements used in the newest generation of ship drives. "I'm contacting Earth Command," she said. 30 minutes later, the face of Admiral Frank Daniels filled her screen. His expression was serious as he listened to her report. "This is the 5th incident this month," he said when she finished. "But the first time we've caught them clearly on video." "We should file a complaint with the Council," Samantha insisted. "The treaty clearly. Document everything." Admiral Daniels interrupted. "Record every violation, but take no action against the Vordak ships." Samantha stood up from her desk. "They're stealing from us, sabotaging our colony. People are going to get hurt if this continues." The Admiral's eyes showed he understood her frustration. "Samantha, I know how this looks, but we're playing a longer game here. What game involves letting them take whatever they want?" Admiral Daniels glanced off-screen, then lowered his voice. "Humanity is still building its position. We need more time. The Vordaks have 9 votes on the Council. We have 2 allies, at best. So we just let them rob us blind? No. We document. We gather evidence. And we prepare." The Admiral's eyes hardened. "Humanity has been very careful about what we show the Council, about what technologies we reveal. There's a reason for that." Samantha sat back down, studying his face. "You're saying we're stronger than they think. I'm saying that humanity learned long ago that appearing weak while being strong is better than appearing strong while being weak." He rubbed his forehead. "Keep your people safe. Adjust mining schedules if you need to. But don't confront the Vordaks directly. Not yet." After the call ended, Samantha stared out at her colony. Lights twinkled as night fell over the main settlement. 3,000 people lived here now. Good people, working hard, believing they were building something that was protected by galactic law. "Computer, send a message to all sector heads," she said. "I want round-the-clock surveillance on all mining operations, and quiet emergency drills for all personnel." She turned back to the footage of the Vordak ship. Something would break soon. She could feel it. And when it did, Novaterra needed to be ready. What Admiral Daniels wasn't saying was clear enough. Humanity had been polite. Humanity had been patient, but there was a line, and the Vordaks were getting dangerously close to crossing it. The grand reception hall of the Galactic Council Station sparkled with light. Delegates from 27 species mingled under floating globes that changed color with the music. Jack Morrison moved through the crowd with practiced ease. His smile never faltered as he shook hands, tentacles, and various appendages of the gathered representatives. "Ambassador Morrison," purred Ambassador Ilara of the Solari. You seem to be enjoying yourself. Always a pleasure to attend council functions, Jack replied. He sipped his drink slowly. It was some kind of Tolarian fruit wine, too sweet for his taste, but he'd learned to appreciate alien cuisine, or at least pretend to. You handle these events better than most humans I've met, Ilara said. Her luminescent skin glowed softly in the dim light. Most of your kind seem uncomfortable with so many different species in one room. Jack smiled. We're adaptable. Across the room, the Vordax ambassador was holding court with several council members. His booming laugh echoed as he gestured with jeweled hands. The Vordax delegation seems pleased with themselves, Ilara noted, following Jack's gaze. Before Jack could respond, Lisa Harper appeared at his side. Her face was composed, but Jack knew his aide well enough to see the tension in her eyes. Ambassador, I apologize for the interruption, Lisa said smoothly. There's an urgent communication from Earth Command. Jack excused himself and followed Lisa to a quiet corner of the hall. She handed him a secure datapad. It just came through on the emergency channel. Jack scanned the report, his diplomat's mask firmly in place despite the content. The words burned into his mind. Vordax raid on Novaterra mining outpost. 12 human miners dead. Evidence of deliberate targeting of occupied facilities. Attached to the report was a video file. Jack tapped it open, making sure the screen was angled away from the party. The footage showed Vordax ships firing directly on a human habitat dome. Not just stealing resources now, killing people. The miners had been unarmed. Their deaths weren't accidental. The Vordax had targeted the living quarters precisely. For 5 years, Jack had maintained his composure through insults, unfair trade deals, and diplomatic snubs. But this was different. Jack. Lisa's voice was quiet, concerned. She rarely used his first name in public. Jack realized his hand was gripping the datapad so tightly that his knuckles had turned white. He consciously relaxed his fingers. When he looked up, his face was still composed, but something had changed in his eyes. Are you all right? Lisa asked. Fine, Jack said. His voice was steady, but flat in a way Lisa had never heard before. Please send a message to Admiral Daniels. Tell him I've received the report and that I recommend immediate implementation of protocol reality check. Lisa's eyes widened slightly. She knew what that meant. All human diplomats were briefed on the protocols, though none had ever been activated. Are you sure? She whispered. Jack looked past her to where the Vordax ambassador was now laughing with the Zeraxian representative. The Vordax didn't know that Jack knew. He was standing there, celebrating, while 12 humans lay dead in a mining colony because of his government's orders. Yes, Jack said simply. It's time. He handed the datapad back to Lisa. Send the message, then return to the party. Act normal. I need 10 minutes alone. As Lisa left, Jack found a small side room and closed the door. For the first time in years, he allowed his diplomatic mask to drop completely. The face that stared back at him from the reflective wall wasn't the pleasant, endlessly patient ambassador the council knew. It was harder, colder, the face of a man who had reached a decision. The Vordax had mistaken humanity's politeness for weakness. The council had mistaken patience for fear. It was time they learned the difference. Jack straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and carefully put his diplomat's face back on. He had one more evening of being the polite human ambassador. Tomorrow would be different. Admiral Frank Daniels stood in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha. Around him, officers moved with quiet purpose. Screens displayed ship movements across human space. A large holographic map in the center of the room showed the position of every known human vessel. And the vessels that weren't known, the ones that officially didn't exist. Protocol reality check is now active, announced Commander Susan Grant. All fleet commanders have acknowledged. Phase 1 begins in 30 minutes. Daniels nodded. For 5 years, they had prepared for this moment. 5 years of showing the galaxy only what they wanted the galaxy to see. Signal the U.S. horizon, Daniels ordered. Captain Ryan is to proceed with Operation Unveiling. He turned to face the gathered captains who had been called to the station for emergency briefing. Some had traveled for days to be here in person, rather than over comm channels. What was about to happen was too important to classify for standard communications. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniels began. For 5 years, humanity has presented itself to the Galactic Council as diplomatic, accommodating, and patient. We have deliberately concealed our military capabilities and our technological advancements. The room was silent. Everyone present knew the public face of human space power. A modest fleet of seemingly simple ships, adequate for defense, but nothing to concern the major powers of the Council. Today, that changes, Daniels continued. The Vordax Imperium has attacked and killed human civilians on Novaterra. They believe there will be no consequences. His voice hardened. They are mistaken. He gestured to the holographic display. Protocol Polite Mode has served its purpose. We have mapped their defenses. We understand their capabilities. We have positioned our assets. He looked around the room, meeting each captain's eyes. It's time for Protocol Reality Check. On the display, dozens of dots that had been marked as cargo vessels, mining ships, and civilian transports suddenly changed classification. Weapon systems that had been hidden beneath false hulls came online. Advanced shields activated. Ships that had appeared slow and cumbersome revealed their true capabilities. The Vordax, and indeed the entire Council, believe they know the extent of Earth's fleet, Daniels said. They think we have 43 combat-capable vessels. The actual number is 217. Captain Alice Ward, commander of the destroyer EDF Defiant, leaned forward. What about the stealth vessels, sir? The Ghost Fleet will remain hidden until absolutely necessary, Daniels replied. Let's not show all our cards at once. The captains nodded. The Ghost Fleet was humanity's ace, ships with stealth technology far beyond what the Council races believed possible. For years, they had moved unseen through Council space, gathering intelligence and positioning themselves near key strategic locations. Your orders are simple, Daniels said. Protect human assets. Neutralize any Vordax ships engaging in hostile actions. Minimize casualties. We want to demonstrate power, not brutality. Lieutenant Peter Kwan spoke up. Sir, what about Ambassador Morrison? Is he aware of what's about to happen? The ambassador initiated Protocol Reality Check, Daniels answered. He will handle the diplomatic side of the Council. Our job is to make sure his position is backed by undeniable strength. Commander Grant's console beeped. Admiral, the Vordax fleet at Proxima Station is moving. They appear to be positioning for another raid. A cold smile touched Daniels' lips. Perfect timing. Let's introduce them to the real Earth Defense Force. On screens around the room, human ships began to change. Hidden weapons panels slid open. Engine outputs doubled, then tripled. Advanced shield systems, previously dormant, came to life with a blue glow that rippled across hulls. Captains to your ships, Daniels ordered. It's time the galaxy learns that humanity's politeness was never due to weakness. It was a choice. And now we're making a different choice. As the captains hurried to their vessels, Daniels turned back to the holographic display. 5 years of patience was about to pay off. 1 week after what many council members now called the revelation, Jack Morrison stood at the podium in a packed council chamber. The room had changed. Instead of looking down at the human ambassador, most representatives now watched him with cautious respect. The Vordax seats were empty. After their failed show of force, the Imperium had withdrawn from council proceedings in protest. Few expected them to stay away for long. The vote stands at 21 in favor, 3 against, with 3 abstentions, announced HFY. The Charter Amendment for the Protection of Developing Species has passed. Jack nodded, his face showing more emotion than council members had seen in 5 years. Thank you, Chair HFY. Humanity appreciates the council's wisdom in this matter. The amendment was sweeping. It established clear rules against exploitation of younger spacefaring races. It created a monitoring system to ensure compliance. Most importantly, it granted developing species the right to defend themselves and others against violations. As the session ended, council members approached Jack. Some offered congratulations. Others asked about trade agreements or technology exchanges, conversations that would have been unimaginable 2 weeks ago. Later, Jack found himself alone with HFY in the small garden that adjoined the council chambers. The Tellurian chair seemed contemplative, all 6 eyes focused on the strange alien plants. "You've changed the balance of the council in just 7 days, Ambassador," HFY said. "Some would call that impressive." "Change was necessary," Jack replied. "Perhaps." HFY turned to face him. "But I find myself wondering about humanity's true intentions. You concealed your capabilities. You spied on council members. You built weapons in secret." Jack looked out at the stars visible through the garden's transparent dome. "We did all those things. But ask yourself this. What did we do with that power once revealed?" "You protected yourselves," HFY said. "And others," Jack added. "We pushed for reforms, not conquest. We disabled ships rather than destroying them. We sought to change the rules, not break them." HFY was silent for a moment. Why maintain the facade for so long? Why endure the disrespect, the unfair trade terms, the diplomatic slights? "To understand," Jack said simply, "humanity is young compared to many council species. We needed to learn how things truly worked, not just how they appeared to work. By pretending to be weaker than you are." Jack smiled slightly. "By being patient. By watching. By giving the council a chance to treat us as equals without knowing our true strength." His expression grew more serious. "We hoped politeness would be met with fairness. Instead, the Vordax saw it as weakness," HFY observed. "As did many others," Jack pointed out. "The question now is whether the council can adapt to a galaxy where power isn't the only factor that matters." HFY's upper eyes blinked in the Tellurian expression of acknowledgement. "Your people are, not what we expected, Ambassador Morrison. Few truly are, once you look beneath the surface," Jack replied. As they walked back toward the main chamber, HFY asked, "Will humanity continue to reveal more surprises?" "I hope they won't be necessary," Jack said. "But understand this. What you've seen is not the limit of our capabilities. Just as what you saw for 5 years wasn't the true measure of our patience. And if the council forgets this lesson..." The question was quiet but direct. Jack stopped walking and turned to face the chair. "Earth has a very old saying. Speak softly and carry a big stick. For 5 years, we spoke softly. Now you've seen our stick. We would prefer never to use it again." HFY nodded slowly. "I believe many on the council are coming to understand something important about humans, Ambassador." "What's that?" "That your species' politeness was never about fear. It was about giving us a chance to be better." The Tellurian's mouth formed the closest thing to a smile his anatomy allowed. "Some of us appreciate that chance." As they parted ways, Jack reflected that perhaps this had been humanity's gift to the galaxy, not just showing strength, but demonstrating that true power lies in choosing when not to use it. The council chamber fell silent as the doors opened. Jack Morrison walked in, 15 minutes late for the session. In 5 years, he had never been late. Not once. HFY, the Tellurian council chair, looked up with 4 of his 6 eyes. "Ambassador Morrison, this session begin." "I apologize for my tardiness," Jack interrupted. His voice lacked its usual careful deference. The chamber grew even quieter. Human representatives never interrupted council members, especially not the chair. Jack walked to the central podium with measured steps. His face was calm, but different somehow. The ever-present accommodating smile was gone. His eyes were focused, direct, meeting the gaze of each council member as he passed. The council recognizes the human representative. Kisvan said, his tone carrying a note of confusion at this change in behavior. "Thank you, Chair Kisvan," Jack said. He placed his hands on the podium and looked around the chamber. "I come before this council with a grave matter that requires immediate attention." He activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Gasps filled the room as the footage from Nova Terra appeared. The Vordax ships fired clearly on the mining habitat. The deaths of 12 humans played out in stark detail. "Yesterday, Vordax ships attacked a human mining colony on Nova Terra," Jack stated. His voice was level but carried to every corner of the vast room. This was not a mistake or an accident. It was a deliberate attack on unarmed civilians. The Vordax ambassador rose to his feet. "This is an outrageous accusation. These are clearly falsified images designed to—" "I have not finished speaking," Jack said. The room went still again. No one could recall the soft-spoken human ambassador ever cutting off another representative. Jack touched his control panel, and more images appeared. For the past year, Vordax ships have been systematically stealing resources from human territories. They have sabotaged our equipment. And now, they have murdered our people. He looked directly at the Vordax ambassador. "Humanity has been patient. We have been polite. That ends today." The Xeraxian representative scoffed. "And what exactly do you intend to do, Ambassador? Your species barely has enough ships to protect your own systems." Jack's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "The Council has mistaken our patience for fear, Ambassador Krull. Allow me to correct that misunderstanding." He pressed another control, and the holographic display changed. It now showed the Earth fleet, not the small collection of basic ships the Council knew about, but the full armada. Advanced destroyers moved in formation. Carriers launched squadrons of fighters with impossible speed and precision. Energy shields unlike anything the Council had seen on human vessels glimmered around the ships. "What is this deception?" demanded the Vordax ambassador. "These are not human vessels." "They are," Jack said simply. "For 5 years, humanity has shown you only what we wanted you to see." The display shifted to real-time footage of human ships neutralizing Vordax outposts near Nova Terra. The precision was stunning. Weapon systems disabled, crews captured, but minimal casualties. A demonstration of overwhelming force with remarkable restraint. The Council erupted in shock and outrage. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded explanations. Others called for immediate sanctions against Earth. Jack stood calmly in the center of the storm. He didn't raise his voice or try to speak over the chaos. He simply waited. Eventually, Kisvan managed to restore order. "Ambassador Morrison," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger, "you have deceived this council about your military capabilities. This is a serious breach of trust." Jack nodded once. "Yes. Just as the Vordax have deceived this council about their activities in human space." "This isn't about the Vordax," shouted a draconian representative. "This is about humanity hiding its true nature." "No," Jack said, his eyes moving from face to face around the chamber. "This is about showing it." Jack looked across the council chamber. For the first time since becoming Earth's ambassador, he allowed himself to smile. Not his usual diplomatic smile, but something different. Something that made several council members shift nervously in their seats. "The Vordax Imperium has mistaken our politeness for weakness," Jack said. He walked slowly around the central display, which still showed human ships in action. "The Council has mistaken our patience for fear." He stopped directly in front of the Vordax ambassador. "I want to be very clear about what happens next." The holographic display changed again. Now it showed a complete map of Vordax military positions throughout Council space. Secret bases, hidden weapon caches, illegal mining operations, everything. "How did you get this information?" the Vordax ambassador demanded, his voice rising. "This is a violation of—" "We've had ships watching your ships for years," Jack interrupted. "Ships you couldn't see or detect." A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. Stealth technology of that level was supposed to be impossible. Ambassador Morrison. Sisfon said carefully, "Are you saying that human vessels have been operating undetected in Council space?" "Yes," Jack replied simply. "We needed to understand the true nature of galactic politics, not just what we were shown in these chambers." The display changed again, showing a Vordax warship firing on a small habitat belonging to another emerging species, the Pavali, who weren't yet Council members. "The Vordax have been doing more than just stealing from humans," Jack continued. "They've been systematically exploiting and attacking multiple emerging civilizations. The Council has either been unaware or unwilling to act." Accusations flew across the chamber. The Vordax ambassador shouted about human spies and violations of sovereignty. Other members demanded to know how human stealth technology worked. Some called for Jack's removal from the chamber. Through it all, Jack stood calmly. When the noise subsided enough, he spoke again. "Humanity came to the galactic community hoping for peaceful cooperation," he said. "Instead, we found a system where stronger species prey on weaker ones while hiding behind diplomatic niceties." He looked around the room. "We decided to play along until we understood the rules. Now we do." The Vordax ambassador slammed his fist on his console. "The Vordax Imperium will not be threatened by humans. We have been a power in this galaxy for 10,000 years." Jack's expression didn't change. "We're not threatening you. We're setting boundaries." He activated a new display showing a formal document. "This is a proposed amendment to the Council Charter. It establishes clear protections for all developing species, whether they are Council members or not. It creates an enforcement mechanism with real consequences for violations." Many Council members looked stunned. No new species had ever proposed amending the Charter so boldly. "You expect us to vote on this now?" asked the Draconian representative incredulously. "No," Jack replied. "I expect you to review it carefully and vote on it within 30 days. Humanity will continue its defensive operations in the meantime." The Xeraxian ambassador leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" Jack pressed another control. The display showed human ships, more advanced than anything seen so far, appearing as if from nowhere around key Council installations and trade routes. "Then humanity will protect itself and other developing species without Council approval," Jack said. "But we would prefer to work within the system. That's why we've been so patient for so long." The Council chamber fell into a shocked silence. The Talarian chair, Sisfon, studied Jack with all 6 eyes. "You've been planning this since the day you joined the Council," Sisfon said. "It wasn't a question." Jack nodded. "Humanity has always understood the difference between appearing weak and being weak. Today, you're seeing which one applies to us." He glanced at his display as a message appeared. "Now, if you'll excuse me, there's one more matter that requires my attention." As Jack turned to leave, he heard the whispers start. The Council was beginning to understand. Humanity's politeness had never been submissiveness. It had been a choice, one they had just stopped making. Alarms blared throughout the Council station. Red lights flashed in the corridors as Jack strode quickly toward the command center, Lisa Harper half running to keep up with him. "What's happening?" she asked. "The Vordax have called for reinforcements," Jack replied without slowing. "A battle group just entered the system." The command center was in chaos when they arrived. Council security forces rushed between stations. On the main screen, 6 large Vordax warships approached the station, weapons hot. Siswan and several other Council members stood near the center console. The Talarian skin had paled to a sickly blue. "Ambassador Morrison," Siswan said when he spotted Jack. "The Vordax ambassador has just informed us that these ships are here to restore order and demand that humans stand down immediately." Jack glanced at the tactical display. The Vordax ships were arranged in attack formation. Council station defenses were active but clearly outmatched. The Vordax ambassador sent a private message to his fleet the moment I left the chamber, Jack said. His tone was conversational, As if discussing the weather, he ordered them to make a show of force to remind the Council of Vordak's military superiority. The Xeraxian representative turned to Jack, four eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "How could you possibly know that?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he stepped forward and addressed Sisvan directly. "With your permission, Cher, I'd like to handle this situation." "Handle it." The Draconian representative sputtered. "Your revelations caused this crisis. The Vordaks are threatening to open fire on a council station." "Exactly," Jack said. "And now you'll see how humanity responds to threats." Sisvan studied Jack for a long moment. "Very well, Ambassador. Show us." Jack touched his wrist device. "Morrison to Ghost Fleet Alpha. Execute Protocol Guardian." For several seconds, nothing happened. The Vordak ships continued their approach. Then, on the tactical display, something impossible occurred. Ships appeared from nowhere. Not small scout vessels, but massive human warships, materializing all around the Vordak's battle group. They had been there all along, cloaked by technology the Council had never seen before. In the command center, everyone stared in shock as 12 advanced human vessels surrounded the 6 Vordak's warships. The human ships were sleek, with designs unlike their publicly known vessels. They moved with incredible precision, boxing in the Vordak ships without firing a shot. "This is Captain Grace Kelly of the Earth Defense Force Vessel Phantom," came a calm voice over the comms. "Vordak's vessels, power down your weapons and engines immediately." On screen, the Vordak ships held position, weapons still hot. For tense seconds, no one moved. "They won't back down," the Vordak's ambassador said, entering the command center with a smug expression. "The Vordak's Imperium does not bow to lesser." His words cut off as the human ships fired, not at the Vordak's vessels themselves, but at their weapons systems. Precise beams of energy struck each ship's main cannons, disabling them with surgical accuracy. No explosions, no casualties, just perfect, calculated neutralization. Within 30 seconds, all 6 Vordak's warships had been disarmed. What just happened?" asked a council member from a species Jack didn't immediately recognize. "Targeted ion pulse beams," Jack explained calmly. "They disable electronic systems without causing structural damage. The Vordak's crews are unharmed." The Vordak's ambassador's face had turned from smug to ashen. "This is an act of war." "No," Jack corrected. "This is self-defense in response to a direct threat. Your ships approached a diplomatic station with weapons armed." He turned to address the entire command center. "Humanity has maintained advanced defensive capabilities from the beginning. We hoped never to need them in Council space." On the screen, the human ships maintained their positions, a perfect formation around the now powerless Vordak's vessels. "Ambassador Morrison," Sisvan said quietly, "I believe the Council may need to reevaluate its understanding of human capabilities." Jack nodded once. That would be wise. The warning lights stopped flashing as the danger level was downgraded. In just minutes, the entire power dynamic of the Galactic Council had shifted fundamentally and irreversibly.